I mean, despite strong rhetoric about cracking down on crime, the administration's aggressive enforcement, that's the Trump administration, their aggressive enforcement actions and policies are instead likely to benefit abusers and reduce the chance that they will be apprehended and prosecuted. Well, there you go. Getting rid of the illegal immigrants actually just increases the amount of crime that we have because they aren't going to report it because they're afraid of being deported, because they don't want to go back to the country they came from, because America is just that bad. They'd rather stay here and be brutally abused, physically and mentally, than go back to the country they came from, because America's an awful place. Great. So I used a snippet from this article in a video I made a while ago, and I wanted to like cover the whole article because it's just totally ridiculous. Now, this is from a website called Human Rights Watch, and these are the kinds of people who have a hierarchy of things they care about, and that hierarchy is women, minorities, immigrants, and nobody else. These are the pro-abortion, pro-childless lifestyle sort of things. It's kind of funny considering that picture there, but it's a gargantuan article. I mean, it's massive. So if you want to read through the whole thing, you go right ahead. But I'm not reading through the entirety of it on this video. So the methodology here, and I'm just going to give you like a snippet right off the start of how these people think. A note on terminology. Many survivors groups, support service organizations, and others working on sexual or domestic violence strongly prefer the term survivor to victim. Survivor implies greater empowerment, agency, and resilience, and many individuals do not want to be labeled solely as victims. That said, some individuals feel that victim better conveys their experience of having been the target of violent crime, and it is typically used in the legal, law enforcement, and policy contexts. It refers to an individual who has experienced a crime such as domestic violence, sexual assault, stalking, or trafficking. The term is important in statutes, administration processes, court proceedings, because rights, eligibility, services, whatever is all tied to the status as a victim for the qualifying crime. However, in recognition of those differing views and contexts, this report uses both terms. Right. There's your problem. You're trying to make everyone happy, and you don't have the capacity to make anyone happy. You can never make everyone happy. Trying to means you fail. You don't have to care about these people saying survivor. Just call them what they are. And if they have problems with that, say too bad. They were the victim of a crime. That's just the way it works. You don't have to say all this imaginary terminology to make some other random person happy. They go on to say, we use the term undocumented immigrant as a neutral, respectful term for those without legal immigration status. So you've just said that they don't have legal immigration status, but you're going to be respectful to them by saying undocumented immigrant. Again, this is just showing you their mentality. Now, again, this article it's just gargantuan, so I'm gonna go through the summary at the top and then some of their desires for DHS and ICE and such. Now, they start off talking about how Trump's election campaign was going to get rid of illegal immigrants, the worst of the worst, killers, etc. And from here, they basically lay out a roadmap for how undocumented immigrants who are like the victims or the witnesses of crime are actually like playing their role in catching criminals. Like they're reporting these things, and so that's actually super duper important to us. God, where is it? This is such a big article. It's hard to find anything in it. Right, so the cost of losing cooperation from undocumented victims of crime are high. According to a recent analysis of crime data from 2017 to 2023, non-citizen victims cooperated with police on 2.5 million crimes, resulting in 257,000 arrests. Okay, but there would still be potentially crimes even if you didn't have the immigrants, and there would still be people witnessing those crimes, right? So, like, it doesn't matter if they're immigrants or not. They would still be happening. Maybe they wouldn't even happen to begin with. Who knows? Like, it doesn't really mean anything to say that, but they're trying. This whole article is just sympathy bait. They're trying to make you feel like you owe the illegal immigrants something for reporting these crimes, and that's the point of this video. They're trying to say, or rather their article, it's the point of their article. They're trying to say that the illegal immigrants are afraid to report crimes because they'll be deported. As if we're supposed to bring in immigrants as some sort of like watchdog, a bloodhound to find the criminals or something. Like, that's not what's happening. These people are moving to the USA for their own sake, for their own life, to live in the USA, to better their own life, or to live with someone that they love, who's then abusing them and committing all these crimes, and then they are reporting these crimes in order to get a free green card. That's what's really happening. So they say making communities safer through the criminal justice system requires people to cooperate with law enforcement by reporting crimes to assist with investigations and prosecutions. Despite the purported commitment to making America safe again, recent immigration enforcement tactics and policies, as well as cuts in support for undocumented victims of crimes, such as the Department of Justice withholding the funding for rape kits for undocumented people if states do not cooperate with immigration enforcement efforts, makes it less likely that immigration victims will feel safe reporting crimes. Alternatively, those states could cooperate with the federal government trying to deport illegal immigrants. I mean, it's slimy to withhold rape kits, sure, but at the same time, why are you trying to stop illegal immigrants from being deported? And they're saying that just to try and paint ICE and Trump and all of them as the enemies, when in reality, there's no reason to keep illegal immigrants in the country to begin with. There's no reason to grant them some sort of super protected status. Under the visa program, survivors of rape, domestic violence, trafficking, and 25 other qualifying crimes have a pathway to legal status if they cooperate with law enforcement or another certifying agency and suffered substantial physical or mental abuse and are otherwise admissible to the U.S. for qualifying a waiver. Now, I do agree with some elements of this, like with people who are trafficked from their home country and they can't return to their home country for various reasons. Like presumably it would be dangerous. Like you get trafficked, you help the police or FBI or whoever catch the person who did it. Then if you go back to your home country, well, word of mouth, they're going to probably find out that you were in on that in some way. And they're going to also wonder like, hey, hang on, didn't we abduct that lady? Why are they back? I agree that there's reasons for the U visa to exist and for people who are victims of things to exist. But at the same time, it's pretty obvious that people will take advantage of some of these things, especially when you keep widening the window as to what counts as a crime. I mean, 25 other crimes on top of those. And ultimately, there are plenty of people who would happily take a wrench to their face and knock out a couple of teeth and say to the government, oh, I was suffering abuse. You have to give me a free green card and arrest my husband, whom I no longer care for. There's plenty of people who would move out of some awful foreign country and come to the USA for that, as is evidenced by this article, which is trying to say that all of these people would willingly suffer through these things in order to stay in the USA. The program helps people like Alana C. In June 2023, after years of abuse, Alana's boyfriend nearly killed her. He punched her, cut her hand and face with a knife, hit her with a bottle, and choked her to the point of being unconscious while threatening to kill her, saying that she would be in a body bag as he would be deported back to the Dominican Republic. So this guy was also an immigrant. And he thought that he could do all of this stuff to this woman, and the worst thing that would happen to him is that he'd be deported back to the Dominican Republic. And this article is here protecting people like him. Of course, I don't think they actually want to protect him because he's a man, but they're protecting immigrants coming in here with the mentality that they can do the most heinous shit, and worst case scenario, they're going to be deported, because that's how soft we are. She had to be transported to the hospital emergency room and be treated for severe lacerations and a fractured shoulder. While in the hospital, she worked up the courage to report to the New York Police Department, a decision that likely saved her life. The police are still looking for her abuser. I don't know how that's possible. And she is afraid, but also believes she would be dead if she had not reported this. Her U visa petition is still pending. So here we have an immigrant abusing someone else, and for some reason, we're supposed to say, like, oh, she was scared to report this, and so she wasn't going to report it. This mentality is that they are too afraid to come forward and talk about crimes that they've seen or suffered through because ICE will deport them. So they're saying they'd rather live in the USA and suffer all of this abuse than they would live in a foreign country. Like, again, and yet we're supposed to sit here and listen to these people talk bad about the country, basically. They're saying Trump bad, ICE bad, DHS bad, DOJ, like, they're saying everybody's bad. Everyone. And yet these people would willingly suffer through all of this to live here. You'll notice a lot of quotes from New York, Minnesota, Portland, Oregon. There's some very particular quotes from particular sources that you'll notice in this article if you happen to read through the whole thing. The interviewees describe examples of immigrant crime victims providing essential help in wage theft, murders, robberies, hate crimes, stranger rape, which I never even heard that term before, or sexual assault cases, which I guess is somehow different, and other serious crimes. A lawyer described a case in which her immigrant client assisted in the prosecution of a case against elder abuse against his son-in-law. Blah, 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 blah. Dude was basically beating his mother and his father-in-law, and the perpetrator was convicted and sentenced to 5 years in prison after threatening and assaulting his girlfriend with a gun, a crime he had committed against other girlfriends in the past, but they had been too afraid to report. So, it's a simple question here. Was the problem that ICE was making people afraid, or was it that these other women were just too afraid? I mean, you can't just sit here and say that it's the administration that's at fault when it's the individual who chose not to report, right? But that's what they're doing. That's what this article is. It's them saying, again, I'm just going to reiterate, it's them saying that illegal immigrants, because that's what they are, illegal immigrants in this country are too scared to report violent crimes that they are seeing or even suffering for the sake of themselves. For the sake of themselves. And we need to give them a safety net and protect them. And like it's bizarre to me. Like we're opening the door for immigrants. We're giving them all of these protected statuses, and we're attacking our own citizens instead of just strengthening the borders and strengthening the crackdown on our own citizens. Creating a higher trust society is not possible with the doors wide open. You want to do both things at the same time. It's just not possible. When undocumented victims of crime fear they will be deported if they come forward to assist law enforcement, more crimes go unpunished, with predictable impacts on the wider community. You know what else is a predictable impact on a wide community? Is reducing the amount of immigrants and deporting all the illegal immigrants. But you don't want to do that. You just want to have an infinite chain of infinite immigrants coming in. Mothers are often forced to choose between reducing their risk of deportation and protecting their children from an abusive partner by seeking help from law enforcement. Some feel compelled to stay in an abusive situation, remain silent about rape, or not reporting a violent robbery because their alternative is to risk separation from their children. This entire article is basically saying Americans are bad, bring in immigrants and give them protected statuses. Like, okay, criminals are bad too. American criminals are bad, sure. But how are we creating this narrative that we should have this endless supply of immigrants and then protect them from everything? Like, do you understand how much money is needed to do that? I mean, they probably do. Like, let's just look at their recommendations. Increase the number of U visas available annually for victims of eligible crimes. Possible approaches include eliminating the 10,000 per year cap on principal U visas. So there's already 10,000 cap, which I'm sure is being hit. I would bet it was being hit long ago. Even the 10,000 people per year signing up for a U visa because they've been abused in some way, or they've even seen abuse in some way, or been trafficked or something. Raising the number of U visas available each fiscal year, so that they not only want to get rid of the cap but possibly raise it. Reclaiming the thousands of congressionally authorized U visas that went unused from when the U visa was created in 2000 until the regulations were promulgated in 2007. I mean, let's be honest, they just want to remove the cap. They may as well have just said that, because that's obviously what they want to do. Increase to infinite, by the way. They want to completely remove it. Clearly, that's what they want. They want infinite immigrants. I've said it before. I'll say it again. They just want infinite immigrants. Increase the number of United States Citizenship and Immigration Services adjudicators who determine eligibility for the U visas to process petitions more expeditiously. So they want us to pay more money to have more adjudicators. Include crimes such as child abuse, elder abuse, and hate crime acts, as well as U visa qualifying crimes, and include U visa protections for civil violations resulting from the commission of qualifying criminal activity in civil or administrative investigations, proceeding, or adjudications. I'm pretty sure child abuse and elder abuse and stuff already are. They even mentioned elder abuse earlier. I don't know if they actually got their U visa from that, but they mentioned it earlier in this article. Hate crime, hard no on that. Hate crime is anything. There are people who think seeing a MAGA hat is a hate crime. People who think seeing a rainbow flag is a hate crime. There are people who are they think anything is a hate crime. It's a completely nonsensical term. It never has, it does not, and it never will have a concrete answer. And so it's basically just whatever someone decides. And I don't agree with the concept of it at all, because unless there is some sort of violence or disruption to someone's business or home or life in some way, it's not really a crime. It's just mean words that made you angry. and people will take advantage of it. Someone will say, my boyfriend turned on Fox News by accident once. I think I've been abused at a hate crime. I need a U visa. I need permanent residency in the USA because my boyfriend voted for Trump. It's going to be abused, as will all of these other ones. Require petitioners whose petitions have been pending for more than 180 days to receive work authorization and permit access to critical safety net benefits. So people who have been in the country for half a year waiting for a U visa, which means they were already in the country long enough to be abused in some way, they go 180 days without work authorization, then they get, or without their U visa being authorized. So they get to work in a country that already has the citizens of it struggling to get jobs. And then we're also going to permit them access to critical safety net benefits. Do our people have critical safety net benefits? The next one is requiring victims seeking a U non-immigrant status to be granted an automatic stay of removal while their petitions are pending. This is another thing that will end up being abused, like refugee statuses, like asylee statuses. Like whenever something like that happens, they flood into the American-Mexico border, and they're not going to go into Mexico, are they? They're going to go into America, and then what happens? They just disappear. They disappear. Their refugee status gets, they go, okay, you apply for refugee, asylee status, whatever. You live in the country legally, waiting for it because you have this stay of deportation and or stay of removal, and even if it gets denied, you can just disappear. It's not like the government puts some sort of tracking chip in your brain. You can just leave. It's a big country. You can just go somewhere and live there your whole life. You can have children. You can go to the hospital, and no one knows. No one's ever going to find you unless you do something to get found. I don't agree with anything that requires trust, because we're talking about people from other countries, and nowadays you can't even trust people from your own country. Designate additional resources to train law enforcement in the implementation of the program, especially for certification. Okay, so now we have to spend more money and time and resources training law enforcement to do special things for immigrants. Fund local law enforcement and community-based organizations to conduct immigrant community outreach to raise awareness of the U and T visa. Right, so now we're also paying for the law enforcement and community-based organizations, NGOs, to raise awareness for immigration status for the U and T visas, which you already said that you wanted to raise or lift the cap of these things. So that means that we're already hitting the cap, right? The outcome of this is that people will take advantage of it, and that you will advertise this to people from overseas who aren't right now planning on moving to the USA, but, oh, hey, what's this? U visa? Oh, cool. I'll go get me a boyfriend from America, marry him, and then make sweet, sweet love with the doorknob. And when I go into the FBI and say, oh, look, my face is all bruised up, they're not going to check the doorknob, are they? They're just going to arrest your boyfriend. It's going to be taken advantage of. Also, the more awareness you make of this to the American people, who generally do not know about stuff like this, the more they will fight back against it. Allow U visa petitioners, like T visa applicants, to submit evidence of cooperation with law enforcement instead of requiring police to provide the certification. Right. So before you were trusting the police to do all of these extra things, and now you want to cut the police out of it. And why is that exactly? Why is it that you want to remove the need for the police to submit your certification's proof? You want to provide the proof yourself? Is that like printing out a green piece of paper and writing infinity dollars on it and giving it to a bank cashier? Again, like, you can't have stuff like this. These aren't people who can be trusted. They're illegal immigrants to begin with, aren't they? I mean, most of them anyway. And even if they're not, even if they're applying for a U visa, it doesn't mean you can trust them. I mean, there's no reason to trust anyone for something like this. Why would you not have the law enforcement submitting the proof? Of course you would. It's ridiculous. Support funding for organizations that provide services to immigrant victims of crimes. Yes, of course. We have to pay yet more money. That's like the 10th time now we have to pay more money for the sake of immigrants. Limit immigration enforcement. And also, is there any, like how many of these places give services, whatever these services are, give it to citizens who are victims of crimes? I mean, do they exist? Like, they probably do to some degree, but then can the immigrants not get services from those? You want to set up a service specifically for immigrants, who will then probably double dip, if we're being honest, because, again, you can't trust anyone these days. limit immigration enforcement activities as safe spaces, such as victim service providers, healthcare centers, courthouses, and schools. So they want to create sanctuary buildings where you can't have law enforcement come after you. And again, it's just another one of those things that will be abused. Another recommendation to the DHS: implement processes to make filing and review of U petitions more efficient without compromising confidentiality. I don't really know what that means because I don't know how complicated it is, but I would say there's a million other things more important than that in the world. Reinstate the policy directive instructing ICE to not detain or deport those with pending U visa petitions while awaiting an eligibility determination. So this is basically like refugee asylee status. Like, it depends on how long you get these pending petitions for, but again, people can just disappear. Like, you can just file for a petition for asylee, U visa, whatever, and then just sort of disappear into the country. Like, it buys you enough time to get your crap in order, and then you just ghost. So I really don't know how I feel about it. Again, it's just like every single one of these, I can just say there's no trust. There's no trust to be given to an immigrant from a foreign country. They're not even a citizen. Why would I trust them? Ensure that victims seeking non-immigrant status are granted an automatic stay of removal while their petitions are pending, absent limited exceptional circumstances. So again, they just get to stay forever. I mean, that's basically redundant to what they just said. They basically get to stay forever. It's also redundant to the safe spaces. Like, they just get to stay forever is what all of these things. They just keep saying, bring in infinite immigrants, give them all of these benefits, and arrest U.S. citizens. That's basically what it says. Conduct outreach utilizing interpretation and translation services to increase awareness that victims of crime can report on law enforcement may be eligible. Right, so they want to then have more interpreters and translators for these people who are coming to our country, and we're also going to give them jobs, even though they can't speak the language. Okay, yeah, sure, why not? Screen immigrants arrested for in enforcement actions for indicia suggesting that they are victims of crime, domestic violence, trafficking, and provide referrals. Like, so bruises, scratches. They're looking for symptoms of harm, basically. But the thing is, you can do that yourself, really, can't you? So again, no trust. There's no trust that someone didn't just headbutt a doorknob. No trust. Reinstate sensitive location guidelines prohibiting enforcement measures at locations such as school, blah, blah. This is safe zones, again, is what they already said, and what they've repeatedly said by just saying, you're not allowed to deport people, you're not allowed to deport people, you're not allowed to deport people. And it's what all of this says. Basically, over and over again, it says, you can see here I had to find it because it's a gigantic article, but it's talking about ICE specifically here. It says, deporting those with pending U visa petitions not only undermines the ability of law enforcement to apprehend people suspected or accused of crimes, but also sends a message that the benefit of reporting crimes may be outweighed by the significant risk of bringing yourself to the attention of government officials. You know what? I'm sitting here thinking to myself, if these people are too afraid to report a crime, too afraid of the government deporting them, then one, the USA is that good that they would rather not want to be back in their own country, despite you repeatedly blaming the government for everything. The USA is still a place that these people want to be in. And two, if they are too afraid to report the crime for the sake of themselves, which is the exact same reason they came to this country, for themselves, then are they really people that we want in the country? I mean, they're more than willing to hold their tongue and let crimes happen, right? That's what you're saying? They want to let crimes happen for the sake of themselves, and that's the government's fault. Promoting victim cooperation. I don't... building trust. Well, there you go. We bridge the gap of trust, as one police advocate put it, between the community and the police. Because immigrants may be coming from places where law enforcement is not trusted or is corrupt. The U visa sends a strong message that law enforcement is good. If you see something or need help, law enforcement is something you can reach out to. Well, that's funny because, you know, based on everything the Democrats say, based on what this article says, based on what this website says, the government is actually bad. And these immigrants who come from countries where their law enforcement is evil, they may act that way specifically because they come from a country with low trust. So now, to continue what I was saying before, we have people coming from countries with no trust to this country to make their own lives better. They are failing to report crimes that they see or even suffer because they don't want to be deported out of the USA. And they are failing to report these things either for their own sake or because they don't trust the government, because they were raised in a society where you don't trust the government. And here we have an article about how you shouldn't trust the U.S. government. I mean, like I said, it's a gigantic article. You could go on forever and ever and ever and ever and ever with this. But the point of it is that USA's bad. Bring in infinite immigrants. Give them all super protected status. Give them all the benefits they need. Sink a ton of money taking care of them and giving them translators and getting them jobs and all this stuff. Arrest all of the American abusers. I say that if we didn't have all of these people, we'd live in a totally different ecosystem. It would be slightly higher trust. You know, America still has its own problems. We still have a lot of issues with our own people to deal with, but it's easier to deal with that when there's not a constant influx of immigrants. If we tighten the belt, then maybe we can start to get some of our own crap under control. Instead, they just want to protect immigrants and bring in more and more and more. And these are just U visas, by the way. This is just people who are like marrying into the country and such, or being maybe brought over by their children or something. This is not like every single work visa or anything like that. It's explicitly, almost explicitly, people who are either trafficked into the country or marry into the country. And 10,000 is already the cap, and they want to raise that. I mean, and how many's enough? How many is too much? I mean, I would say it's already too much, but for the leftists, I mean, how many is too much? Like, is there such a thing? Is it possible for there to be too many? Can they even comprehend that? It's like they have no understanding of the fact that there is a finite amount of space, a finite amount of resources, of jobs. They just want to drown the USA in their bleeding heart's ocean of blood. Like, they're quoting in other articles, they're quoting other leaders like Putin saying that it's wrong, and obviously Putin's sort of doing this because of the war, but they're saying it's wrong for like no questions asked abortions. It's wrong to incentivize a child-free life as a good thing. And of course, this website is saying that that's oppression, that's oppressing women, that women should be allowed to glorify abortion and glorify a child-free life. And where has that gotten us? It's gotten us to the point where women say that it's better to never have a child, to never sleep with a man unless you're allowed to have an abortion, where they talk about how no woman has ever wanted to give birth, and every single birth is because a man has forced a woman to do it. That's not a great point for us to be at, I don't think, because that's kind of like extinction, really. You're talking about extinction. And the thing is, the people you're bringing over in seemingly infinite amounts, all of these immigrants, they don't adhere to the mentality that you do. They're actually like very opposite of that in most countries anyway, very, very opposite from leftist ideology. And they seem just totally blind to this, totally deaf to it, totally stupid. I mean, I don't know how you can be tone deaf to the reality that sits right in front of you every single day, that you would defend them destroying the country, help them even. You're helping them. Anyway, thank you for watching. If you liked the video, please do the YouTube things.